everyone, how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel and welcome back to October Lake in Planet Zoo, a series where we're working on creating this really large park situated in the Canadian Highlands. In today's episode, we're going to be introducing a large pod of grey seals to the park. If that does sound good to you, and if you do like today's video, please do consider leaving a like on the video. And of course, do comment down below letting me know what you enjoyed about it. If you want to see more Planet Zoo content, please do consider subscribing. I do upload Planet Zoo videos every Wednesday at 5 PM UK time. With that intro out of the way, let's talk about today's episode, which is going to be an incredibly messy one. So I apologize in advance for how I'm going to be jumping on the screen and between builds and stuff like that. This is a messy build, I have to admit. But when it is finished, I think it looks really nice. I'm very proud of the final product. I think it looks really good. I think the seals themselves are very happy in their habitat, well, as far as they can be. And I think it was overall a really fun project, and I really enjoyed it. What we're going to be doing is essentially creating a bit of a lagoon for these seals. It's going to be right next to the lake itself, and the idea is that this might have been once a literal lagoon by the lake, so a little separated pool of water with like a small creek funneling water there, and it's been repurposed to house these seals. And to do that, they've kind of blocked off the water a little bit, but now they have their own like filtering systems and stuff. So I'm including stuff in this build to kind of harken to that idea without very obviously outright stating it. So I think it does turn out pretty well. The water level is the same as the lake, and there's a little bit of a separation there, but it still looks like, you know, you could tell that it might have been part of the lake. And overlooking the lagoon is going to be this nice observation area shaped a bit like, well, it is circular in nature. It's almost a dome, but not really. It's more like a bowl than anything else, and I think that looks really good by the end as well. It's a bit of a feature for the park, so that no matter where in the park you are, especially if you're on the higher level where some of the other animals are, you can really look down at the rest of the park, and you'll very easily be able to pick out where this habitat is because of that really large dome structure. Again, not really a dome, more like a bowl, but it's very obvious. It's a big circle. It's got these really rich woody tones, and it really stands out, I think, in this part of the park. Aside from the building itself, there's not going to be many other observation areas. There is going to be an underwater one, as you can see below this area right here. That isn't going to be finished in today's episode. I am going to be waiting for the next update to finish that, because there's going to be like customizable screens and water customization and stuff like that, which I think would fit this habitat really well. So we're going to wait till that comes up to finish up the bottom area, but everything else in this habitat is more complete than not, I would say. As you can see here, I'm working on that observation area, and to make a big circular area, what I like to do is a technique that is very common within the Planet Zoo community, especially on YouTube. Lots of people love doing this because it's an easy way to get really cool big structures like this that are in a perfect circular shape, or about as perfect as you can get, by creating like little wedge pieces around the central piece, which is that mud pillar, which I'll remove eventually, and then using that central piece to rotate around, and then you can get like a perfect circle essentially, and then keep rotating, and then you'll have like a full-on circle, which I think looks pretty good. What I'm going to be doing is using a lot of glass, a lot of wood. It's going to look quite modern, but with that rustic vibe. Again, very characteristic of my style in Planet Zoo, something you will have seen before on my channel if you've watched the channel for long enough, and of course not unusual to October Lake in and of itself, because as you can see up there, this is a style we've used quite a lot, especially in our more recent habitat builds with this color of wood, the more light white like trim pieces and stuff like that. This style is very characteristic of this park at the moment, like I said, especially in the more recent builds. So in the lore of the park, I would imagine these buildings are what came when the park started to receive more money and more funding, and essentially allowed for more modern buildings to be built, more modern habitats. So I think that ends up working out pretty well and looking quite good. Like I said in the previous episode, which was the tour, we are going to revamp some of the older habitats as well, like the otter habitat, which again I'll wait till the update, because it's not far now. It's less than a week now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, less than a week till the update, so I'm very excited for that. And of course the DLC is going to bring plenty of new animals, but the new mechanics for the water and the new customizable signs and stuff like that are going to be super helpful with revamping some of these old habitats, maybe revamping the entrance as well, so I'm quite excited for that. This video, by the way, is going to be cut quite a bit, like there's going to be cuts here and there, and the reason for that is, like I said, this was a messy build. I had the idea in my head, but it took a lot of kind of finessing around with the all the little pieces, trying things out, deleting them, so what you're seeing is not by any means the full amount of time. Like, it's a time lapse of about 6 hours total for my build, and out of the 6 hours I probably cut out a good 2 or 3 hours worth of work from the video because it was just trial and error and working things out. But that's kind of the fun of the game, really, is when you're building something big like this, it does take a lot of trial and error. You try things out, they don't work, you just start again, and it's pretty easy to do that. And I think that's kind of how you get good at building, is by just trying things out. If they don't work, all you gotta do is scrap it and try again. Do something different, maybe try something else until something really sticks. And with this, the one wedge of this dome is almost entirely complete, and with that, I'm going to cut forward where we're going to actually start rotating it around. And once we start rotating it around, you'll see in a second, it is relatively quick and relatively simple to obtain this big dome shape. When I say perfect circles, I mean the shape is almost perfectly circular. Because we are using like rectangular square pieces and stuff like that, it's not going to be fully perfect, it's not going to be fully there. But I think it's about as good as it's going to get, and I think it looks pretty nice. And some of the unintentional effects, like the crossing over of certain beams and stuff, end up looking pretty cool. And if not, you can always just go into individual pieces and delete them. It's a bit tedious, but I think the result is worth it. It looks really good. Here, especially once I start cutting out into certain pieces and then rotating it and then cutting out things and trying again, by the end I'm very pleased with how it looks. Of course, especially at the bottom, there's going to be pieces I need to fill in and like areas I need to correct. But overall, I'm quite happy with this. And as you can see, this is just me getting rid of some of the middle pieces and then redoing the rotations. You're going to have to redo the rotations a few times because you will inadvertently miss certain things like I did. But because the rotation mechanism is relatively simple, again, it doesn't take long at all to get a full structure back up and going as soon as you would like it to be. I don't even know if that sentence made any sense. But there you go, there you have it. That's the observation area, and as you can see, it becomes a very prominent feature of the park immediately. You can see it from anywhere you are in the park. It's a nice feature. Life's landmark, I think you can see it from most ends of the park and use it as a guidance, kind of a guiding point so you know where you're going. And as you may notice, this takes up a good portion of this beach area as well, but doesn't take up all of it, because I'm intending to actually have a guest beach area at some point where guests can simply go onto the lake shore and do what people do at lake shores, you know, hang out, have a picnic maybe, go into the water, and I'm going to actually have a section designated for that. Because of course, this is a lake at the end of the day. And while the zoo is a big part of this, I want to still harken back to that nature reserve concept that I started out the park with. So we are going to have things like that. We're going to have walking trails, lots of different features like that are going to be built into the park itself. But that's all coming in later, so I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Here, just working on the bottom area a bit. The fencing in this whole area was quite tricky to do because it's hard to do this when you have to add water in later, especially with path work. So it got a bit tricky and it got very messy. By the end, you'll see that when I did do the final path work, especially the path that descends into the bottom area and ascends, the fence around it ends up just being kind of like, almost like I just kind of scribbled it on, basically. As long as it, like, my mentality was like, as long as it works, you know, I don't have to touch it any further, and that's that. Oh, one thing I haven't finished is I haven't added disability access yet, disability friendly access. So I'm going to add a pseudo lift as I do with some of the other areas of the park. I initially wanted to do just ramps for both entrances, but I couldn't get like a shallow enough slope. Most of the slopes in the game are quite steep, so I didn't do that. So in a future episode, I will probably add in a lift just around the back here somewhere that go up the go between the 3 levels. So of course you have the top level, you have the underwater level, and the ground level itself. So we'll do that unless I can find a way to add in a ramp. I still might be able to. I might be able to curve it around the back or something, but I think a lift idea is a lot better, and it just will probably end up being quite a bit neater as well. And give him a bit more interest, because it is a big circle. A bit more interest to break up the shape I think would be quite nice and look quite good. As you can see, the concrete pieces are going to be a big asset here in helping neaten up the edges of our parts and stuff like that. But again, going to be messy. Here I'm just trying to cover up the path texture. Like, I like the path texture, but it's more to cover up the curves and stuff like that to make it look like one big cohesive piece, as opposed to a path that has like little curves and stuff like that. Initially I thought about making the path white, but I changed my mind very quickly because the white just gets a bit blown out in the sunlight, a bit too bright, and that rich woody color on the other pieces, I cannot resist that. I think it looks so good, and it just looks so just really nice, and like I said, very rich. And yep, there we go. See, I've added it there and I'm pretty happy with it. Along the sides, like you can see with the really messy concrete pieces, we're going to add planters and stuff like that. I may do some of that off screen, just again, because it will take a long time if I were to keep everything I do today on screen. But while we're building, let's talk a little bit about grey seals, because they are really cool animals, and they're one of the groups of animals I don't think about that often. Like, I love animals and I do think about them. I like researching animals and learning about them. But seals and other pinnipeds are not animals I'm super familiar with. And then recently I've been learning a bit more about them, and they're incredible animals, because you might think to yourself, the largest carnivores on land or the largest mammalian carnivores, you probably think to yourself, oh, bears, lions. But, and of course in the water you'd think maybe some of the big whales, like sperm whales. But people rarely ever think about pinnipeds, like, things like leopard seals and stuff like that. And researching them, these guys are, some of these animals are really big, hefty creatures. Elephant seals are enormous, way bigger than I thought they were, crazy. But the grey seal that we have in the game here is one of the smaller species and one of the more common species. They are least concerned on the IUCN Red List, which is excellent to hear all the time. They're very widely distributed. In fact, I've heard that you can occasionally see them in the Thames River here in London, but I haven't seen them personally. I did manage to spot some when I was in Wales a couple years ago, or maybe nearly 4 years ago. Oh my god, I'm getting old. Anyways, yeah. So nearly 4 years ago I was in Wales volunteering at this cliffside bird reserve. So it was with the RSPB, which is the Royal Society of Protection for Birds. And I was in Wales at a cliffside which is known for puffins, but I wasn't there during puffin season. And I helped interpret the birds and stuff for the visitors. And we managed to spot some seals and porpoises out on the ocean. That was pretty cool. Of course, it was from a great distance, couldn't really see them up close, but I thought that was a really fun thing. In fact, I'm going to take back exactly what I said just a moment ago about the seals being small. These guys aren't very small. They're pretty chunky. They're small compared to an elephant seal, but as a seal, they're still pretty big. They get up to almost the largest of the bull males get up to nearly 2.5 meters long and weigh upwards of 300 kilograms. The females, or I believe they're known as cows, are quite a bit smaller, nearly half the size of the males, so maybe a bit more than half the size, and again about half the weight, which is quite crazy. Apparently those out in the ocean get even larger, and you can have males that get up to 400 kilograms. And I think the record for the largest bull grey seal is something like 3.5 meters, which is crazy. These are big animals and way bigger than I thought they were. Like I said, these aren't animals I'm super familiar with, and now that I'm learning about them, I'm just kind of blown away by some of the attributes that I wasn't expecting, like their size. These are chunky animals. The thing is, I don't think there's many great documentaries about them. From what I've seen, they usually in documentaries, they just kind of food for sharks, you know what I mean? There's not an awful lot specifically focusing on seals, which if they are, please let me know in the description, because I'd love to watch some. They're fascinating animals though. They communicate very vocally, so in the game they have these really nice calls and clicks and stuff like that, which they do regularly, and you can hear them in the game, and it's really nice. They also clap, which is quite interesting. You know how like I'm sure you've seen the videos of seals clapping. They actually use that in several ways. If they do it underwater, it's generally to deter a predator from attacking by creating like lots of noise. But during mating season, they also clap to find potential mates. So that's pretty cool, I think. They've got adorable pups. They really do. They're so cute. In the game too. They don't have any today, but when we do, I'll definitely have to record them. They are so cute. They've got this beautiful like soft white fur when they're small. They look like a plushy like toy. They're so adorable. And of course, because they are mammals, they drink milk from their parents, their mothers. And that's kind of, they stay with that until they're still with their moms and their parents until they are old enough to have their adult fur, which is much more waterproof. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, the fur they have when a kid is more focused on keeping them warm, but it's not super, like it's not really suited for them to go into the water because the pups don't actually swim, if I'm not mistaken, but the parents do, of course. Like they have to still learn how to swim once they gain that slightly more adult fur. They do also do pretty well in captivity, which is quite good to see. Like when it comes to marine mammals, generally I would say the majority are not suited for captivity. Not like I would never approve of dolphins or whales in captivity by any means. They simply don't. They're just not suited to it. They don't do well in captivity at all. But pinnipeds, like the seal, actually do surprisingly well. Especially when they're given a big enough space, they have a pod of their own to, have familial relations and interact with. It means that they have that societal bond, that connection, and social bond, societal, social bonds, and that makes them a lot more I wouldn't say necessarily happy because that's quite anthropomorphic, but they are a lot more suited to just being in captivity. They don't mind it as much once they have this big enough area, and they can reproduce and stuff like that. So captive breeding is definitely okay. So it is quite interesting. It's one of the marine mammals which I say are pretty okay in captivity. But yeah, that is pretty much it for me talking about these animals. Like I said, very cool creatures, and looking forward to learning more about pinnipeds. I hope we get more pinnipeds in the future. But again, like when I say marine mammals and stuff like that, especially in Planet Zoo, I think they should stick to the ones that can do well in captivity and the ones that do well. I think they should avoid anything that has a bad track record, like dolphins or whales. If they want to do fish, I think plenty of fish would suit this as well, but maybe not some of the bigger sharks, like great whites and stuff like that, do awfully in captivity. And it's just interesting to see, I think. But like things like sand tiger sharks, I think do pretty well in captivity. Well, again, when it comes to marine animals, there's a lot more nuance there in terms of what species do well, what species don't, what is considered doing well in captivity. A lot of small fish, of course, do fine as long as they're given proper husbandry. Bigger fish, again, it varies significantly. Some of the tropical fish, like you get big arapaimas and stuff, doing pretty okay. But proper husbandry is so critical when it comes to aquatic animals. So much so, more so than, in fact, land animals, because you need to get so many things right with water husbandry, like temperatures and salinity, acidity. There's so many different facets of it, so it's a lot more complex. So again, different species, different requirements, and I'm sure at the end of the day, the people who make Planet Zoo, they do their research. I can tell, like with the things in the game, with the information in the Zoopedia, they do their research, they know what they're doing. And I think with the animals they chose for the aquatic pack, I think they really do care about introducing animals that are, responsible in a responsible way, so that, it's animals that would do okay in captivity. Things like the otter, the seal, great choices. Other aquatic animals that I think would be pretty cool would be the small Asian clawed otters, though they would be pretty cool, or other otter species maybe. That sort of thing be really fun to see. Maybe some aquatic birds would be pretty cool. Pelicans, well, not aquatic birds, but like semi-aquatic birds like pelicans, or swans, things like that. Maybe not swan, it's not really a zoo animal, is it? But more penguins would be so cool. There's so many species of penguins, and if you want to check out the penguin video I did, definitely do, because it does have like, well, I do talk a lot about penguins and how many species there are, and basically how many would be so fun to have in a zoo, so I do a lot of that in that one. Now we're coming up towards the tail end of the video. One more thing we're just doing up here is creating a wooden platform, which is directly above the underwater viewing area, where the seals can actually come up, and also where zookeepers could potentially go in and then like do a little bit of a demonstration for the guests, maybe feed the animals while talking about the seals themselves. It's directly underneath the viewing area, so maybe it wouldn't be the best for like a presentation of sorts, but it still would provide a chance for the guests to view the animals in a slightly closer setting, and I think it looks pretty nice. It looks like somewhere the seals could just go and bask if they're feeling like they want to. And it has a slightly more elevated area as well if the seals want to just go up a little higher. And I put some enrichment items on there in a second, and you'll see how that turns out. They don't use it very much, but they still go on there once in a while. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. But like I said, it's a messier build, but one I'm really proud of by the end. I'm really happy with how this turns out. It's been a busy week for me. I had a bunch of university deadlines. And at the same time, Prehistoric Kingdom came out, so I played that quite a bit. And I had to make this video, of course. But the thing is, I love going into Planet Zoo to make these every week, because I feel like it does relax me in a lot of ways. It makes me feel productive, but also like happy, because I love just playing with these animals and learning about them and stuff. So I'm never going to complain about getting to play Planet Zoo, especially if it gives me a reason to kind of just relax and maybe take off the load a little bit. So I'm always happy with that. That over there in the corner with that square box, well, the rectangular box, that's meant to be kind of like something to divide the water a little bit and maybe filter it, so that, you know, it does like give you that idea of, okay, there used to be a connection with the lake and that's just been separated so that the water can be filtered properly and things like that. Adding in some walls from the outside, and I don't think I included it in the video, but you can see there's a staff building back there, which is just been something I just added to, again, just so the staff can go in, and I made it a bit bigger so maybe I can squeeze in a few zookeeper huts and things like that later down the line. But yeah, I was pretty happy with the overall build of this habitat. It's really funny though, because we're getting a new pack of animals in about 6 days, and this grey seal was an animal that we got in the last DLC nearly 4 months ago. And it took me that long to build a habitat for the grey seal. I thought this was going to be one of the first animals I played with when I got that pack. And I did use it, like I made like a little habitat for it just on my own time to watch it move around and stuff. And I was really excited to build a habitat for it, but I just got caught up in building the rest of the zoo, and then suddenly the new pack was announced and I was like, oh my god, I have not built a grey seal habitat yet. So I thought, you know what, good enough of an excuse for me to get in there and actually build this. That's the thing with the game, like I feel like there's still so much there for me. I know, like, I've heard some other people, you know, worrying that the game doesn't have that long a lifespan because you kind of do everything you want to do relatively quickly, but I don't feel that at all. Like, the thing is, the game has something like, what, 80 animals, if I'm not mistaken, and like half of those at least, or more, much more than half of them, are habitat animals. Like, there's so much to do, so many potential habitats to build, so many mechanics to explore. I think there's just still so much left for me here, and I'm always going to really enjoy playing Planet Zoo, and I'm always going to want to do more new things. And like I've just shown you here, even though we got that aquatic pack, it took me this long to build a grey seal habitat, because I just got caught up in the fact that we already have so many cool animals, and it's just, I want to build habitats for each and every one of them, and yeah, basically. I'm just always going to be excited for this game. It is my favorite game and I'm always happy about it. So yeah, but still, I find it so funny that it took me 4 months nearly 4 months to actually build a grey seal habitat. With the new Southeast Asian pack dropping on next Tuesday, I am going to, I'm not sure if I'll be able to build something in time for the Wednesday release. I hope so. But if not, I will probably release it maybe a day late or something. but I will be keeping it to October Lake for now, so I'll probably be introducing one of the animals. I'm thinking probably the clouded leopard first, because it would fit really well next to the snow leopard habitat. They're both big cats that live in slightly higher altitudes, in slightly colder weather. The clouded leopard specifically living in montane forests and stuff like that, so I think that would make a pretty cool addition next to the snow leopards. Besides that, I think we are going to eventually introduce bears into this park. I think probably one species of bear from the base game, maybe like the Formosan black bear or the one of the brown bear species. I'm not 100% sure yet. I want to see which one is most amenable to live in captivity, and I'll introduce that one. And then I think next to that, a sun bear would be pretty cool. In this park, I don't know how many of those pack animals I will use overall, just because they are all tropical animals. I will probably use the leaf insect just because I can fit it into the tropical house really well. Some of the others, the Babirusa, probably, that's something I could use. But some of the others I might save for when I return to my tropical zoo build, Sannikov Land, because I think a lot of them will fit there pretty nicely as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. A lot of this final moments here are going to be foliage placing, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I know it's messy, but I really enjoyed it. I think this is definitely one of my better projects overall for this park. It really does stand out, has a nice shape to it, lots of space for the animals, and I just really like it overall. I hope you guys have too. Just let me know down below in the comment, what was your favorite part of today's build? What do you want to see from the Southeast Asian pack in the zoo? Let me know which habitats I should be building. Once we get the new screens and stuff, of course, I'll have to return to this build and go into the underwater section and do that all up nicely. But yeah, that is the end of today's video. Do leave a like down below if you liked the video. Again, leave a comment down below telling me what your favorite part was. Subscribe for more Planet Zoo content every Wednesday at 5 PM UK time, unless I somehow fail to stick to that schedule, which is always a very real possibility. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for all your continued support, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.